My name's Kalia. My mom kicked me out the same week I lost my job. No warning, no mercy. She said I was a burden. My ex-husband backed her. Even my so-called family mocked me at a dinner they called a farewell. They had no idea I had a hidden fortune. No clue I was about to own the company that paid their bills, or the house they threw me out of. The sun had barely set when I pulled my suitcase up the front steps. The air in Austin still carried that late spring warmth, the kind that made everything feel slower, heavier. I had just come back from Evelyn's funeral, a woman I had spent 15 years taking care of. A woman who, in the final years of her life, had become the only person who ever looked at me like I mattered. I wasn't expecting a welcome party, but I also wasn't expecting Alma to open the door, look me dead in the eye, and say, "Didn't expect you back so soon." No hug. No, "How are you holding up?" Just that one line, flat and cold. I stepped inside anyway. It didn't feel like home anymore, but my name was still on the deed. Or at least it had been. I wasn't even sure anymore. The living room looked rearranged, like someone had tried to erase any trace I'd ever been here. Alma stood with her arms crossed. "So, what's your plan now?" she asked, barely disguising the irritation in her voice. Before I could respond, Reed stepped out from the hallway. "Wait, so you're unemployed now, right?" he said, half laughing. "We can't carry you, Kalia. We've got enough on our plate." I stared at him, unsure if I heard him right. Reed, my ex-husband, was still living in the house I'd helped pay off, and now he was acting like I was some random squatter? "Tell her this isn't a halfway house." A voice crackled over the speakerphone. It was Judith, his mother, calling in from another state, clearly looped in on the ambush. Alma walked away briefly and returned with something that made my stomach drop. My suitcase. Packed. "You've been gone for months. We figured it was time to reset the space," she said, avoiding eye contact. "I paid the mortgage on this house for years," I said quietly, my voice barely above a whisper. "I gave up school to work 2 jobs so you wouldn't lose this place." Alma shrugged. "And we appreciated that. But you're not a charity case, Kalia. Everyone's struggling. You'll land on your feet." I couldn't speak. My mouth was dry. My chest felt tight. Betrayal wasn't new to me. But this? This was a knife in the back, twisted slowly. Later that evening, I sat on the edge of the guest bed, my former room, trying to make sense of it. I remembered all the times I skipped classes, pulled double shifts at the diner, and the hospital just so Alma wouldn't have to file bankruptcy. She used to cry and say things like, "You've saved this family." She used to hold my hand and swear, "I'll never forget this sacrifice." Well, she did. That night, instead of apologizing, Alma decided to throw a farewell dinner. I didn't want to go, but I didn't want to give them the satisfaction of seeing me run away either. Neighbors came, a few extended relatives. Even Soraya, Judith's smug niece, showed up in her overpriced shoes and judgmental smile. Alma clinked her wine glass and said loudly, "Let's all raise a toast to Kalia. She's finally moving on, hopefully to something that doesn't involve dusting someone else's furniture." Laughter rippled through the room. My face burned. Soraya added, "She should look into one of those live-in caregiver gigs again. At least then she gets a roof over her head, right?" Another voice chimed in, "Just don't end up under a bridge. Wouldn't look good for the family." I didn't say a word. I smiled. I nodded. I played along, because that's what I had always done, kept the peace. But inside, something broke. They had no idea what I carried in my purse that night. No clue what Evelyn had left me. Not even a guess at the account I had access to. $8 million. Sitting quietly in a trust fund with my name on it. As I walked out of the house, suitcase in hand, I didn't cry. I didn't beg. I just smiled. And when I got to the curb, I pulled out my phone, opened my banking app, and stared at the zeros like they were promises I had made to myself a long time ago. That night, I didn't crash on a friend's couch. I booked the most expensive suite in downtown Austin. Morning light pushed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, painting everything gold, but I felt none of it. The sheets were silk, the coffee was rich, and the air smelled like lavender from the spa downstairs. Still, I stood in my robe, staring out over the city like it was a battlefield. I wasn't there to indulge. I was there to gather myself before doing what I should have done years ago. Face Alma, not for comfort, but for truth. At 10:14 a.m., the concierge called to say I had a visitor. I already knew who it was. I didn't invite her up. She came anyway. The door opened, and there she stood. No tears, no apologies. Just Alma, dressed like she was headed to a board meeting. She set a manila envelope on the marble coffee table and sat without asking. "You always liked things neat," she said casually, like this was brunch. "So I figured we'd settle everything clean." I didn't sit. She opened the envelope and slid a printed stack of papers toward me. A list, organized, highlighted, itemized, diapers, 1990. $421.17 elementary school lunch account, 1996 to 2001. $3,209.64 college dorm setup, 2005. $2,103 mortgage contributions, 2009 to 2022. $127,000. Gas, groceries, utilities, over 30 years. $149,742.87. At the bottom, bold and underlined. Total due from Kalia, $391,447.68. I blinked. "What is this?" Alma took a sip of the water the staff had set out. "Receipts, records, proof. I kept them because I knew, someday, you'd forget all I did for you." My heart didn't sink, it boiled. "So you've been raising me like I was a business investment? With an eye on the return?" She tilted her head. "Call it whatever you want. I call it accountability." There was no heat in her tone, just matter of fact, cold as steel. I started laughing, not out of humor, but because it was too absurd to cry. "You raised me with a calculator in your back pocket. Unbelievable." "You think love pays the bills, Kalia?" she snapped, voice rising now. "Everything has a price, and since you seem so independent all of a sudden, it's time you paid your share." She reached into her bag and pulled out a yellow sticky note. "Attorney's name, family law. If you won't repay what you owe voluntarily, I'll see you in court." She leaned back, like she'd just dropped the mic at some twisted TED Talk. Before I could respond, Reed's face appeared on her phone screen. Zoom call. He'd been listening the entire time. "Hey, Kalia," he said, fake smile plastered on. "Look, I know this is awkward, but Mom's right. You've lived rent-free most of your life. It's time to step up." And then Judith's voice cut in from another square. "Frankly, Kalia, this isn't personal. It's just the reality of adulthood. We've carried you morally and financially long enough." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. These people sat at my table, ate from my hands, slept under the roof I helped save. And now they were uniting like some petty legal avengers to take me down? I stared at Alma. "You're really doing this?" She nodded. "This isn't revenge, it's balance." Something in me went quiet. I didn't scream. I didn't argue. I simply walked to the minibar, poured myself a glass of sparkling water, and ended the call without a word. Once the room fell silent, I opened my laptop, logged into the trust's private portal. New request created, internal audit, Whitlow Family Trust. I wasn't doing it to flaunt what I had. I was doing it because they thought I was cornered. They thought they could put a number on my life and file it under accounts receivable. They had no idea that the woman they were trying to bankrupt had spent the last decade helping manage Evelyn's multi-million-dollar estate. They had no clue what I'd learned, what I'd documented, and what I now owned outright. If Alma wanted to turn love into litigation, fine. I'd return the favor, with interest. But before I fought back, I needed to understand when the war really began. A few days later, I walked alone through the neighborhood where I'd grown up. The schoolyard fences were still painted the same dull green. The ice cream shop on the corner had become a vape store. Time had moved on, but my memories, they clung like ivy to every brick I passed. I paused outside my old middle school and remembered how I used to skip lunch, pretending I wasn't hungry, just so I could hand Alma back the extra $5. She used to say, "Don't waste money. Your stomach doesn't pay bills." Back then, I believed her. I was 14 when I begged to apply for a summer science camp. It was the kind of thing other kids got as a reward. Trips, camps, scholarships. Alma didn't even look up from the newspaper. "You think we have money for your little dreams? Camps are for spoiled kids, not for girls like you. If you want something, get a job." So I did. That summer, while my classmates went hiking and made volcano projects, I stocked shelves in a dusty thrift store on Congress Avenue, earning minimum wage and adult resentment. When I got into college, I didn't even go to orientation. I took a job at a call center the same week because Alma said, "You owe me your future. I didn't raise you so you could go waste time sitting in dorms." By 25, every raise I got went straight to the house. I told myself it was temporary. I told myself she'd be proud. But Alma never said thank you, only, "You're doing what's right. That's what daughters do." No hugs, no holidays, just bills and guilt. I thought that's what love was supposed to feel like. But I see it now. I wasn't a daughter. I was a return on investment. Back at the hotel, my phone buzzed with a new message from the bank. It was a transaction alert, $4,200 withdrawn from one of my private accounts. I stared at the number, confused. I hadn't touched that account in weeks. I logged in immediately. The timestamp, the IP, the location. It all pointed to one place. Alma's house. My breath caught in my throat. She had access. Years ago, I'd helped her set up mobile transfers. I never thought she'd use it behind my back. But there it was. She hadn't just thrown me out. She had reached back in and taken from me, like she always had. Quietly, shamelessly. I felt it then. That sharp, cold clarity. This wasn't just betrayal. This was theft. And it wouldn't be ignored. Later that evening, I sat at a quiet corner of a coffee shop near South Lamar, trying to catch my breath, get some air, maybe feel a little more human. I was sipping my espresso when the rejection email came in. "Thank you for your interest in the executive assistant position at Rosen and Haller, but we've decided to move forward with another candidate. Best of luck." I'd been shortlisted. I'd done 2 interviews. It didn't make sense. Then I got the voicemail. Someone from HR had forgotten to hang up after leaving the message. "She seemed competent, sure," a woman whispered to someone off mic. "But I heard she got fired and is getting sued by her own family. That kind of mess. It's too risky. Liability nightmare." I sat frozen. Someone was spreading things, twisting the truth to make me radioactive. There were only a handful of people who knew about the family threats. Only one of them hated me enough to want me professionally blacklisted. I clenched my jaw, opened my email, and started typing. Subject line: formal complaint, identity theft and financial fraud. 2. Legal at Centrabank CC, personal attorney. I hovered over send for a long second. And then I clicked. This wasn't just about stolen money anymore. It was about stolen years, stolen choices, stolen freedom. If they wanted me gone, I'd vanish, but not before I exposed every secret they tried to bury. I gave them one more chance. To stop. To walk away. To let me be. I typed it slowly into the family group chat. What you're doing isn't just cruel. It's legally questionable. Consider this a final warning. Stop now or be held accountable. 3 dots blinked, then disappeared. A moment later, Reed replied with a single thumbs-up emoji. Seconds after that, Alma sent a laughing face. Not a word, not a denial, just mockery. They weren't afraid. They still thought I was bluffing. The next morning, I woke up to the kind of nightmare you can't shake off with coffee or a hot shower. My phone was buzzing nonstop. A friend from high school forwarded me the link. Disgraced maid or manipulative heiress? The truth behind a viral inheritance scandal. It was plastered across a local lifestyle site, the kind that fed on gossip dressed up as journalism. There were no facts, just shadows twisted into a narrative. It claimed I had seduced Evelyn in her final years, manipulating a vulnerable widow to rewrite her will. It even hinted that I'd been caught in intimate moments inside the estate, though no evidence was offered. Just anonymous sources and cropped, unflattering photos of me taken years apart, mashed together for effect. I called the publisher directly. The receptionist transferred me to their editor. "We were pitched the story by a reliable local academic," he said coolly. "A Dr. Judith Halden." Of course, I didn't yell, I didn't plead, I simply said, "Thank you for confirming," and ended the call. They wanted to drag my name through the dirt? Fine, but they underestimated how deep I'd already been buried in my life, and how hard I had fought to climb out. By noon, I was trending for all the wrong reasons. A Twitter thread titled "Rich Maid Steals Inheritance" had racked up over 40,000 retweets. TikTokers were acting out scenes of me crying crocodile tears, wearing fake Chanel, pretending to dust bookshelves with diamond rings on their fingers. My inbox exploded. Messages poured in. "Gold-digging parasite." "You make women look bad." "Elder abuse isn't cute just because you're in designer heels." "You're disgusting. You should be locked up." I stared at the screen for a long time. I didn't cry. Not because it didn't hurt, but because the pain had crystallized into something sharper. I posted only one thing publicly. False accusations are defamatory. I won't respond with words. I'll respond with evidence. Then I opened Judith's contact and sent her a private message. "I know what you're doing. I know who you talk to, and I know how you think this ends. You're wrong. The next thing I publish won't be a gossip piece. It'll be proof. And it won't be anonymous." She didn't reply, but she read it. I saw the scene mark flash under my message. I hoped it made her stomach twist. They thought silence meant surrender. They were wrong. And if they really wanted to see what I looked like when I stopped playing nice, well, they were about to. The only thing louder than Soraya's heels were her insults, each one sharper than the last. She strutted across the marble showroom floor like she owned it, clipboard in hand, fake smile glued on her face. I had come to quietly tour 2 luxury villas just outside West Austin. Nothing flashy, no entourage, no need for attention. I had already wired the deposit through my investment firm under the name Whitlow Holdings. My name was nowhere on the paperwork yet, but Soraya, with all the grace of a game show host and the venom of a teenage bully, didn't bother to hide her disdain. "Let's not waste time," she said, waving at the scale model. "These units aren't for people who clean for a living." She didn't recognize me. Not in this setting, not dressed like this, not with my hair straightened and a 1,000-yard stare that no longer begged for respect. I gave her a polite smile and walked toward the balcony model, letting her keep talking. "So many people walk in here thinking a fat tip makes them luxury class," she added under her breath to another agent nearby. Everyone laughed. I didn't flinch. She gestured dramatically at the most expensive unit. "We'll just skip this one, way out of your budget." I turned to the senior sales manager and quietly asked him to confirm the credentials under Whitlow Holdings. He excused himself. 5 minutes later, he returned looking different, more upright, alert, almost nervous. He leaned toward Soraya and said softly, "She's the client." "Not just a client, the buyer. She's purchasing both Model A and Model D." Soraya blinked, then tried to laugh. I didn't realize." I cut her off. "I'll take both," I said calmly, "and I'd like her commission revoked. I'll pay full rate to someone else." She opened her mouth again, but I was already walking away. Later that night, I sat in the quiet of my suite, sipping peppermint tea while scanning new interior design proposals. My email pinged, a message flagged as urgent. It was from Reed. Subject line: "Who is Whitlow Holdings?" Attached was a real estate article about a new buyer shaking up the market with multi-million-dollar deals. The name caught his attention. Whitlow, after all, wasn't just any name, it was Evelyn's. He had finally connected the dots. In the body of the email, he'd written, "Did Evelyn leave you something? Why didn't you say anything when you quit? We thought you were broke. No, how are you? No, are you okay? Just questions about money." I didn't respond. Apparently, Reed had even asked Alma about it earlier that day. According to the concierge who overheard their call, Alma's voice went from dismissive to panicked in under 10 seconds. "She never mentioned any inheritance," she had said. "She was just a maid. There's no way." No way. They didn't know the half of it. Back in my suite, I opened a package that had arrived earlier that afternoon. It was postmarked from Evelyn's private attorney. Inside was a handwritten letter. Evelyn's final words to me. "If they ever doubt your worth, don't prove it. Own it. They made you small. Let them watch you grow." I closed the letter, folded it carefully, and slid it into the back of my journal. They still thought I was the maid. Let them. Because tomorrow, the maid would be buying the house they slept in and deciding if they were worth keeping. And now that I'd taken something back, it was time to take back everything. Some people strike back with anger. I preferred paperwork. I sat across from my attorney in a quiet conference room, the windows facing the downtown skyline like they were witnesses to what was coming. In front of us were two thick folders. One held documented proof, decades of mortgage contributions, property tax records, maintenance costs, and every dollar I poured into the house Alma now claimed as hers. The other was more recent, shareholder documents showing that Whitlow Trust now held 51% of Halden and Partners, the financial consulting firm Reed operated like his personal empire. Neither of them knew I'd already moved the pieces. I wasn't angry anymore. I was surgical. Reed arrived at his office around 8:30 that morning, coffee in hand, ready to play boss. He didn't even make it to his office door. The receptionist, a new hire, stood up nervously. "Mr. Halden, I think you'll want to go straight to HR." He blinked. "Why?" The lights in the main hallway were dimmed. The screens usually showing firm performance metrics now flashed. "Internal transition in progress. Please stand by." Downstairs, Human Resources handed him a letter. "Effective immediately, Mr. Reed Halden is terminated from his position as CEO by majority shareholder vote. Further access to company systems has been revoked." He stared at the paper, then at the signature. Not mine, but my attorney's. His face drained of color. He stormed out and called Alma from the parking lot. "She fired me," he hissed. Alma sounded confused. "What do you mean she fired you? You own the company?" "No," Reed said, voice rising. "She owns the damn building." Meanwhile, I didn't flinch. The building was just a bonus. I had lunch that afternoon with my real estate attorney at a small bistro near Town Lake. While she enjoyed her salad, I reviewed the formal claim we were filing for the house I'd been thrown out of just weeks before. It wasn't revenge, it was restoration. For 30 years, my name was nowhere on the deed. But the payments, my W-2s, my transfers, my repair records, all traceable, all time-stamped. And now, Alma would need to explain to a judge why her name was on something she hadn't paid for in over a decade. Her lawyer received the motion by courier the next morning. Alma called me, of course. "You're suing me for a house?" she spat. "No," I said. "I'm reclaiming what I already paid for." "You're seriously doing this? After everything I've done for you?" I kept my tone even. "You made me earn every moment under that roof. Now I'm returning the favor, paper for paper." 2 days later, I received notice that a preliminary ruling was in my favor. My name was reinstated as co-owner with immediate rights to valuation or full repossession, pending final review. The judge had even written, "Based on documentation, the defendant has benefited from considerable financial contribution from the plaintiff without compensation." Translation: if Alma didn't agree to settle, she could be evicted. I didn't want her on the street. I didn't want her at all. So I sent a single message. Don't pack. I'm not kicking you out, but don't ever think this house is yours again. She didn't reply. And I didn't need her to, because justice doesn't always come with a gavel or a courtroom audience. Sometimes it comes quietly, when the balance finally shifts back to where it belonged. I expected silence. What I got was a smear campaign designed to ruin me completely. When I became a trending hashtag, I realized this wasn't just family drama anymore. It was war. My face was everywhere, cropped, filtered, demeaned. TikTok skits mocked me as the maid who conned her dying boss. Twitter threads accused me of manipulating a lonely old woman. Some low-effort podcast even ran a full episode titled, From Mop to Mansion, The Kalia Conspiracy. Then came the worst of it. A source close to the family leaked claims that I'd seduced Evelyn while she was sick, that I took advantage of her frailty, that I isolated her from real family to take control of her estate. It was grotesque, but it wasn't random. The account spreading it all, a burner tied to Judith's IP address. She wanted me ruined, branded, deleted from sympathy, but she forgot. I had receipts. Real ones. So I went live. Title: So this is the maid who stole millions? The screen showed my face. No makeup, no filters, no smile. Hi, I began. Since so many of you are talking about me, I thought I'd talk to you directly. I held up folders, one by one. My employment contract with Evelyn. 22 years of service. Click. Document opened. Every health bill I paid when she was too proud to file insurance. Click. Statements highlighted. Photos of the house before I renovated it. Paid out of pocket. Then I read messages. Texts from Alma calling me a walking ATM, and Reed joking that I was the best free tenant ever. My voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. Within minutes, the comments shifted. She was used. She didn't steal, she survived. Where's the apology? I ended the stream with one final file, a video clip. Grainy but clear, dated 3 months before Evelyn passed. She sat in her favorite chair, smiling at the camera. If you're seeing this, she said, it means I'm gone. I want it known. Kalia is not just my employee. She is the daughter I chose. She cared for me without asking for anything. That's why everything I have belongs to her now. I let it play to the end. No cuts, no commentary. Then I closed the stream. It took hours for the shockwave to hit full speed. News outlets picked it up. Opinion columns flipped sides. TikTokers who mocked me deleted their videos or replaced them with teary-eyed apologies. And Judith? Gone from social media. Reed, though, he couldn't help himself. He streamed live from a dimly lit kitchen, eyes red, voice shaky. I didn't know she'd do all this. I didn't know she'd turn the world against us. The comments were merciless. Because you turned against her first. She gave you a home. You gave her shame. And Alma, she stayed quiet. No posts, no calls, no statement. I didn't need one. For the first time, the silence was enough. I wasn't triumphant. I wasn't proud. I was just free. I didn't win. I just stopped losing. And for the first time, I could finally breathe. The knock on my door wasn't loud. It was the kind that begged, not demanded. I opened it, expecting room service, or maybe a neighbor. But there she was. Alma. Her shoulders slouched, her eyes swollen, her once flawless lipstick, now a faint memory. I lost everything, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. The house. Reed took off. Judith won't even answer me anymore. I didn't invite her in. I just stood there, hand on the doorknob, watching a woman I once called mother unravel in front of me like loose thread from a worn-out sweater. She continued, her breath shaky. I know I was wrong, Kalia. I know I hurt you. Please, I just need a few weeks. There was no show, No sobbing, no crocodile tears, just exhaustion, and maybe, for once, a sliver of truth. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. "I'm not your home anymore," I said softly. She looked up, searching for something in my face. "So that's it?" "No," I said, pulling an envelope from my side table. "This is." Inside was a prepaid card and a printed list of senior housing centers with support programs. "It's enough for 6 months. After that, it's on you." She took the envelope slowly, like it might burn her fingers. Her lips trembled, but no words came out. "I didn't need them." "You don't owe me thanks," I said. "And I don't owe you anything more." I closed the door gently, not with force, not with spite, just closure. Later that week, headlines changed again. Judith was under investigation for falsifying financial records tied to social media sponsorships. The blog that ran the fake story issued a quiet apology at 2 a.m., the kind meant to be missed. Reed lost his platform completely after violating content policies. His final stream? A 3-hour monologue about being misunderstood, barely watched and quickly forgotten. And Alma, she didn't vanish, but she became small, like a shadow that no longer startled me in the dark. The Austin Tribune ran a piece titled, "Not a Maid, but a Martyr." I didn't read it. I didn't need someone else's words to explain mine. Instead, I spent the afternoon at my lake house. The wind off the water rustled the tall grass. A heron skimmed the shoreline. My name wasn't trending. My phone didn't ring. It was quiet. And in that silence, I wrote a letter. Not to Alma or Judith or Reed. To myself. "I forgive you. Not because you deserve it, but because I do." I folded the note, slipped it into a glass jar, and buried it beneath the oak tree out back, right where the roots were strong. Some debts can't be repaid, but they can be released. I didn't need closure. I needed peace. And peace, finally, had a name, mine. Most mornings, I wake up to birdsong and the smell of dark roast coffee. Nothing more, nothing less. My lake house is quiet. It used to be a trophy, something I thought I had to prove I was worthy of. Now it's just home, a real one, no performance required. There are no lawyers in my calendar anymore, no interviews, no articles to defend myself against. Just a class of 6 students from the local elementary school who show up every Tuesday and Thursday for piano lessons. They call me Miss Kalia. That's all. Not the maid, not the fraud, not the scandal, just me. Monica stops by sometimes. We became friends in the least expected way. Her trying to sell me property, me buying 2 units on a whim. She brought over banana bread this morning. "People still whisper about you, you know," she said as she leaned on my kitchen counter. "You're the woman who bought 2 villas in one afternoon and disappeared." I laughed and took a sip of coffee. Funny, right? And I still sleep in just one room. I don't post anymore. I haven't opened my social accounts in months. The world can keep shouting. I'm not listening. "Let the world scream," I told Monica once. "I have silence." She nodded like she understood. Truth is, peace isn't a loud arrival. It's not a headline or a standing ovation. It's making dinner without being interrupted. It's drinking coffee before it gets cold. It's listening to wind instead of worry. Sometimes I think about them, not out of longing, just in passing. Judith is under federal review now. Tax evasion, sponsored content fraud, something about falsifying donation receipts. Reed's business license was revoked after a whistleblower exposed years of shady contracts. He can't legally operate a company until he's almost 50. And Alma, she's still alive. That's all I know. I received a postcard last month. No return address. The handwriting looked familiar. "I hope you're well. I'm sorry." That was it. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. The truth is, forgiveness doesn't need a reply. That same afternoon, I taught Ellie, my youngest student, a few bars of Moonlight Sonata. She stopped and asked, "Why do you like this song so much?" I smiled and rested my fingers gently on the keys. "Because it starts sad," I said, "but it doesn't stay that way." She nodded like it made perfect sense. Kids get it more than adults sometimes. The wind picked up, rustling the leaves outside. I paused, closed the lid over the keys, and just listened. No chaos, no threats, no crisis. Just the sound of a life, mine, still going, still whole, still here. They took everything from me, except the one thing they never understood I had: the will to begin again. Before you go, let me say this: life doesn't always break you with thunder. Sometimes it chips away at you, little by little, through the people who were supposed to love you most. I spent years mistaking silence for peace, loyalty for love, and survival for living. But here's what I learned: boundaries are not betrayals. Walking away doesn't make you the villain. Sometimes, the most radical thing you can do is choose yourself. If my story sounded familiar, if it echoed something in your own life, I hope it reminded you that you are allowed to start over. You don't need permission to rebuild. You don't need applause to be free. Now I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever had to walk away from someone you loved just to protect your peace? Or maybe you're still trying to decide if it's time? Let me know in the comments. Just drop a 1 if this story touched your heart, or tell me where you're watching from. If it didn't connect with you, that's okay too. Tell me why. I'm here to listen. And if you'd like to hear more stories like this, stories about healing, about truth, about power in the quietest places, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what's coming next. Because your story matters too, and you're not alone anymore.